First this evening, shockwaves are reverberating across some sectors of the country this evening after Jamaica ended its medical cooperation program with Cuba.
The development comes amidst what appears to be pressure from the United States. Jamaica's Ministry of Foreign Affairs made the stunning revelation today via a news release.
Well, you looked at this story. Let's listen to the details.
Say the words Cuban Eye Care Program and many Jamaicans will tell a litany of mostly positive stories, not to mention the medical missions. Since 1976, almost 50 years, Cuban doctors have been working in Jamaica as part of a medical cooperation agreement. But for the past few years, there's been pressure from the United States. The superpower has labeled the overall program throughout the world as forced labor. The government says there's no evidence of that in Jamaica. But this was U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio when he visited the island in March 2025.
It's not that they're Cuban doctors. It's that the regime does not pay these doctors, takes away their passports, and basically it is, in many ways, forced labor. And that we cannot be in support of.
We are, however, very careful not to exploit the Cuban doctors who are here. We ensure that they are treated within our labor laws and benefit like any other worker. So any characterization of the program by others certainly would not be applicable to Jamaica. We are ensuring that our program complies with all the international laws and standards.
Almost a year later, the Jamaican government decided to stop the program, saying the previous agreement expired in February 2023 and both governments have been unable to agree on the terms and conditions of a new technical cooperation arrangement. The Jamaican government is, however, willing to engage the Cuban medical professionals on an individual basis in keeping with local labor laws. The arrangement would last for the remainder of their time in the country. Jamaica has been one of the largest employer of Cuban healthcare workers in the region. Up to 400 Cuban nationals, including doctors, nurses, biomedical engineers, and technicians. Earlier this year, St. Lucia's Prime Minister Philip J. Pierre said the U.S. had directed his administration to discontinue the program. Some Caribbean nations have also defended the medical programs in their countries.
And our news center is following this developing situation. And of course, our reporter Jamila Maitland, she went searching for answers. She spoke with the Health Minister, Dr. Christopher Tufton, at Gordon House a short while ago.
We're not wishing to discontinue our relationship with the Cuban workers, just to be clear. We would like to have them. They work well. The relationship has been long and strong and beneficial to Jamaica. It's just the agreement in its current form, which we have sought to adjust with no response, and as a consequence are taking the position that we take.
The concerns raised in the press release was there were some issues relating to something. Are you able to expound on?
In recent times, some concerns have been raised, which we have taken note of, that are not consistent with some of our laws. So issues around the work passports and handling their passports as opposed to the government handling control of the passports. And then, of course, the methods of payment.
To what extent was there any pressure from Washington to ensure that these contracts are in line with what they think is international standards?
So you can't really ignore the geopolitical issues within their hemisphere and certainly within the global context. So I would not say that those may not have been considerations, but I would also say that when you look at the agreement, the historical agreement, and look at how they juxtapose against the laws of the country, there are obvious issues that needed to be regularized. So,
is the Jamaican government willing to go back to the table if the Cuban government says, we are able to accept these terms, some of the sticking points as it relates to payment, as you said, and maybe the passport or something?
So we see how that turns out. I don't want to be hypothetical. I don't think it's a good thing so to do. I just can't speak right now to the current situation and the facts as they are. And as of now, what we're saying is There is no agreement. There is no negotiated new agreement, but there is an offer for the Cuban workers to be given individual contracts to work here.
And the opposition spokesman on health, Dr. Alfred Dawes, has also been weighing in on the issue. TVJ News spoke with him a short while ago, also outside Gordon House.
But to be honest, we saw this coming. When the program expired, what we saw was an attrition. And doctors and nurses were going back to Cuba. They weren't replaced. So we saw the numbers dwindling down further and further. So we figured something was up. The negotiations directly with the Cubans didn't seem to be going anywhere. And we know that this concept of individual contracts is not going to fill the gap, because the collaborators know that there are consequences to abandoning their country, whether, not being able to go back as freely, or I don't know, but it is not something that is accepted worldwide, because there are Cubans being deployed all over. So I'm hoping that the Ministry of Health would have started to make some definitive moves in terms of filling that gap. We're hoping that a gap analysis would have been done already. I understand that just under 300 healthcare workers are left in the system now, and they are going back at the conclusion of the contracts. This is much more serious than we would like to believe. It's not just nurses and doctors. These are specialists. The doctors and nurses, they go in the most underserved areas in primary care. They are biomedical engineers who fix broken down equipment. And we know that we have an issue with maintenance here in Jamaica. And noticeably, or most notably, the iCare program. That is the crown jewel in the Cuban-Jamaican partnership.
And still to come this evening, court administration planning public traffic days in other parishes. And in business news, Finance Minister says that manufacturers will remain competitive despite new